That's it. Okay, perfect. Let's just see if anybody has joined. Okay, excellent. Hopefully you guys can hear me okay. We are talking tonight about why resolutions don't work and what you should be doing instead. I'm so glad that you're joining me tonight. This tells me that you are interested in making some changes for the new year, which is fantastic, because you know what? Lots of people at the end of the holidays say, enough is enough. I need to make some changes. I'm going to do all sorts of different things in the new year. For some reason, January just is a line in the sand, isn't it? But here's what happens. Many people who make resolutions end up in this situation, making the same resolutions the next year and the year after and kind of downsizing them so they are seemingly more attainable, but yet by February 14th, most people have forgotten what their resolutions are and they certainly no longer are focusing on them. So what is it about January that gets us so excited? Well, it is a natural sort of ripping off the page and starting with a clean canvas, if you will. And so I'm all for it. I know a lot of people are like, resolutions are stupid. They never work. Well, they don't work because we don't apply the right science to them. But January actually is a great time to kind of set up some new intentions for yourself. Maybe you pick a word of the year. Maybe you set some goals for your year. But how do we create resolutions that actually are going to work for you? Well, we know most of the time they fail, and it's pretty frustrating to many of us, isn't it, that they fail? And so we have to analyze, why is it that they fail? So let's talk about it. There are 6 basic reasons why resolutions don't work. Number 1 is they're loosey-goosey. Number 2 is they're should goals instead of good goals. And we're going to talk about that. They lack support, and there's an incompatible story. There's no follow through, and there's no habit science. So what do each of those all mean? Well, starting with loosey-goosey, you saw that second or third slide where the resolutions were crossed out and annotated and different every year, but just still like maybe 1 or 2 words describing what the goal was. That's loosey-goosey. There's no measurable outcome. There's no actionability. There's no timeline. Loosey-goosey does not get the job done. So we're going to talk about how to correct for that. Next, there's should versus good goals. This is one of my favorites. Should goals are goals that are external. The media, magazines, social, your in-laws, your partner, somebody else has inflicted this goal on you, and suddenly you're like, yeah, I should probably do that, so I'll make it a goal. Should goals don't get her done. Good goals come from deep within your heart. They're a leading that are all yours alone, and they have nothing to do with anybody else. Our goals that survive and actually work are good goals, not should goals. Next, we have no support. We don't have anybody around us cheering us on when the motivation dies, and that's really important. Incompatible story. Sometimes we have a hamster wheel in our head turning, and it's in opposition to the goal direction we want to go. And I'm going to tell you a story about my sister here shortly, but this is a big one, and this is only one that I have just recently discovered but have been working with, because we all have these stories going on in our head. We just need to pick at them and pull them apart until the just little bits of truth sprinkle out and we get rid of the rest. No follow through. Your goal can be as perfect as possible. Your resolution can have just a big shiny sparkler all the way around it, and it's perfect. But if there is no follow through, if you don't have action behind your goal or your resolution, not going to happen. No habit training. So I geek out on habit science, and there are some very specific things one needs to do in order to develop a new habit and have it be sticky. So what's the solution? What are we going to do about all of this? Well, let's talk about it. We talked about loosey-goosey. Well, the opposite of loosey-goosey is smart goal setting. And some of you are like, oh, not this again. But I will tell you that my husband works in corporate. He's worked at Starbucks, Procter & Gamble. He's now at PMI, a local Seattle company. And he will tell you that when he sets objectives with his team, there are many folks in high levels who have no idea how to set a proper goal. And if you're not using the SMART format, then the goal is going to die in the wind. And here's why. When we do SMART goal setting, we need to be specific. When it comes to goals, I always say, if a stranger came and picked up your piece of paper that had your goal on it, they should be able to tell you exactly what your goal is, hold you accountable, know exactly what you're trying to do, and it should be super simple. Get healthy is not specific enough. I don't know what that means to you. I don't know when you've attained it. So it's not specific. We need them to be specific. We need them to be measurable. So I need to have a very hard line to know when you have completed it and when you haven't. There needs to be data able to be collected. So I want to lose weight. There's no metrics there. I want to lose 9 pounds in 60 days. There are metrics there. That is measurable. I can tell you if you did that or you didn't do it. Actionable. Actionable means I need to be able to put some strategy behind it. And if the goal is too vague, you cannot do that. Realistic. This is a big one, and it's going to play into the end of our talk when we talk about habit science. If your goal is too far out, it is going to be demotivating and you're going to get knocked off kilter. And we're going to talk about flow state. In fact, let's just do that right now. There's a concept called flow state. Brain science is so huge right now. It's so big. You're going to be just hearing so much about it. And one of the things that we talk about is something called flow state. Flow state is that if you have a passion like painting or doing music or reading, you know that you've had moments of time where you've just disappeared into the project. That's flow state. So flow state is when you are doing something that is challenging enough that it keeps you fully engaged, but not so hard that you get discouraged and disengage. And there is a sweet spot there. And that is true for actionable goal items. So if you set the goal too far out, you're going to get demotivated and disengage. If it's too easy, you kind of lose interest. You want that action place in the flow state range. So you keep excited and challenged, but you don't lose interest or you don't get overwhelmed. Realistic, that's what we were talking about there. Time bound. Obviously, I need to know when your goal is done or else I can't hold you accountable to it. You certainly can't hold yourself accountable to it. So you need to set a deadline. You need to write it out that way. Don't just think it. Just say, I'm going to lose 3 pounds, and you have in your head in 30 days. Write it with the goal. No loosey-goosey. Okay. We talked about should versus good. This is where a Bulletproof Wellness why comes in. So if you don't deeply know why you want to set this resolution, and I'm going to just suggest it's a wellness type aspiration. If you don't have a deep why behind why you're doing it, then when motivation dies off, you are going to have a very hard time continuing moving forward. Let me use an example. Jane was a patient of mine. She's about 60, and we did some wellness why work in a group setting. And I was going around the table, and everyone on their piece of paper where we do this, what we call whying down process, where you write your first wellness why, and then you why down, and I'll explain that. I come to Jane, and she's got a blank page, one statement at the top. I said, Jane, looks like, is that your wellness why? And she said, yep, I got her done. I said, okay, well, what is it? And she said, my wellness why is that I want to be healthy when I'm older, so I want to practice good health now. And I said, but why? And she kind of looked at me and she said, well, because I guess I want to be active when I'm older. But why? Well, because I don't want to be sickly. I don't want to be marginalized. I want to just be able to stay mobile. But why? She said, because I want to be able to interact with my grandkids. But why? And she paused for a minute and she said, I don't ever want to have to tell my grandboys no to something they want to do with me because I can't do it physically. I still get goosebumps with that one. That was Jane's Wellness Why, not up here, down here. So one of my projects for you is that before the end of the year, I want you to develop a deep, meaningful wellness why. And if it doesn't clench your heart or bring a tear to the eye, you haven't why'd down enough. Next, no support. The solution to that is a wellness pit crew. So when you're making resolutions, if you don't have anybody else in on it or involved, you have a much less likely chance of survival. So a wellness pit crew is surrounding yourself with supporters. It can be as simple as a coworker. It can be as complex as a personal trainer. And it's a group of people who are going to help you along your journey. So for me, I have an acupuncturist. I have a chiropractor. I have a remote trainer I hired out of Toronto. I have 2 friends who I stay in touch with. I have the Change Cave membership group that I run is motivating to me. It's part of my wellness pit crew because we hold each other accountable. That's my wellness pit crew. I had a patient named Linda who got me started on this concept. She came into my practice, one of my first patients actually, and I'd been working with her for a while, and she came in and she said, Doc, I need you to help me with my lip. And being that I'm a chiropractor, I was kind of like, your lip? What do you mean? Not my lip, my Linda improvement plan, my lip. I said, oh, tell me more. She got a little bit quiet and she said, you know what? I've spent the last 2 decades raising boys and pursuing a career. And somewhere along the way, I completely lost myself. I look in the mirror, I don't recognize who that person is. I'm overweight, I'm tired, and I'm weak. I don't remember what I was passionate about. And I need your help because I've tried for the last 3 months to manage this and it's not working. And I'm like, yeah, we can do that. So me and Reed, a physical therapist that was local, and her trainer, Derek, and a coworker from work whose only job it was to say on Monday, Linda, did you hike on Saturday? That was her only wellness pit crew job. That's just like having one little screwdriver turn a 1/2 inch. It worked. 6 months from then, Linda was well on her way to meeting many of her goals. So wellness pit crew, rewriting your story. This is going back to that incompatible story concept. I'm going to use my sister as an example. She's given me permission to share this. My sister, every year about this time, gets all ambitious. I'm going to get healthier. I'm going to lose weight. I'm going to get strong next year. I'm going to just feel better. And I'm going to get involved with some volunteering. And I'm going to do this, that, and the other. And every year, it doesn't happen. And what we've identified is that she has so many incompatible stories in her head running on a hamster wheel that those goals, they have no chance of survival. So what I mean by that is when she says, I'm going to get fit and strong, there's a story in her head saying, you are weak, you are old, there's no way you can be strong again. That's not possible for you. You've let it go too far. That story just goes and goes and goes, and it crushes that goal. Same with her energy. She's like, I'm going to get more energy and I'm just going to feel more vibrant. And her story says, you're 54. There's no way you can get that. You're a chronic pain sufferer. Chronic pain sufferers don't have energy. It's this story going in her head. And I think we all have them to some degree. So the best way to deal with them is to take an actual pen to actual paper, because that does something to our brains, and get it out on paper. What is that story that's been running in your head? And then we write it, and then we edit it. We write a new story, and we have it to go back to and read again if we need to, and it is transformative. So rewriting our story is an incredible tactic to help resolutions grow and prosper. Action plan. So this is from the no follow through failure point of resolutions. And this is twofold. So you need to have an action plan behind your goals. Many of us, especially women, I hate to say it, we're incredible list writers. We are really good at staying organized and having a plan. Execution, not as strong. Men actually tend to be stronger in execution, less in organization and list writing. I wish the two brains could blend together. But if we don't have an action plan, then I don't care how pretty and smart your goal is, it's not going to happen. And the thing about action plans, it needs to be twofold. You need to have an execution plan, yes, but you also need to have a plan when the semi-trailer hits you head on and knocks you off your path. What are you going to do to get back on? I had a patient named Julie. Oh, she was funny. And she was a self-proclaimed couch potato, and we decided to get her moving more. And so we decided on a walking program. And we planned it all, and she was going to walk every day, and it was just going to be a little bit. She was going to build up. And so she comes in 3 weeks later, and I said, how's that walking plan going? And she's like, it's great. It's going awesome. I'm really proud of myself. And I said, oh, are you going to head out today? And she looks at me like this, no, literally like that. And I said, oh, why? And she's like, look at it. And it was pouring rain. And I said, Julie, are you made of sugar? Are you going to melt in the rain? Well, no. And I said, so your plan, your strategy was to walk every day, but you'd already set yourself up for failure, deciding you're not going to go out in the rain. Oh, I said, that is not a thing. That's a thing in your head. I've seen a mom with 2 kids in a stroller running in the pouring rain, and she's in shorts and soaking wet, and the kids are covered with the plastic thingy. I'm like, that's not a barrier. That's just something you've made up in your head. And she couldn't believe it. I said, if you're going to let rain knock you down in the Northwest, then good luck on getting even to 30% of your goal. So we had a good chuckle about that, but it was a great example of having an action plan, not just for how to get through it, but how to get back up when you get knocked down. Here is a little project I'm going to suggest we do. It might seem a little away from resolution, but I'm going to come back to it. So time mapping is an exercise I take clients through at the end of every year. Whether they're a business client or a wellness client, we go through this time mapping protocol because it is so, so helpful. Here's what it is. You take a blank piece of paper and it has the week on it. And you fill that week out with everything you typically do in a week. You color code it. So exercise is one color, work is one color, house errands, time with family, time with kids, running kids activities, church, whatever it is that you do in a week, you fill it in and you try to be as thorough as possible. Now, of course, your week is going to change week to week, but you put in a typical week. Okay, then you turn that over and then you create another one, a blank one. And this time boxes come off the wall, or walls come off the boxes rather. You think big, you dream big, and you go, if I could design the perfect schedule for my life, how would I design it? And you spend some time developing, what does that look like? And you're going to have things in your head go, oh, you can't do that. Well, no, you got to do it. Quiet them and write out the dream schedule, color code it, and then flip the other one over and look at the two together. And the process of doing this helps highlight for you small places you could jibe and shift, taking Schedule A closer to Schedule B. In some cases, been big shifts. I had one client who cared for her parents all afternoon on Wednesdays. They were up in a home. It was her day to visit, but that had just sort of happened, and suddenly it was etched in stone. And she realized, well, instead of going up there for 3 hours, I do an hour on Wednesday and an hour on Monday, they get 2 visits, and I get to go to that class that I love every Monday and Wednesday afternoon, right? She wouldn't have thought of that until she saw just in color what her schedule looked like and how far from her ideal schedule it was. So I'm going to suggest to you that you do the time mapping exercise, go ahead and just copy down that link, and the email will be sent directly to you with the exercise, the blank sheets, and the instructions. And take this as my gift to you for planning very consciously how you want to move into next year. Habit science, my favorite. Habit science is so interesting because it helps us to realize that building new habits is not as out of reach as we think. Many people don't make resolutions because they feel like they're too hard and they're just not going to come true. But if they understand how to create new habits in their life, they would see that they can dream big, and as long as they follow the rules, they can have it happen. So let's back up a little bit. When we make a resolution, what we're doing is we're trying to elicit a new behavior. And typically I advise adding a behavior before taking one away. It's much easier to add vegetables than to take away pasta. So when we start a new behavior, eventually if we repeat it enough, it becomes a habit. And if we repeat that habit enough, it can become a routine. And you see, routines are the ideal destiny for a habit. That's what you want to happen. A routine is like brushing your teeth. You don't even have to think about it. And when you consider habits are still conscious, routine is subconscious, and the difference between the two is simply automaticity. It's automaticity. It means that it's automatic. So suddenly the habit goes from being conscious, yes, I'll do it, and executing, to, oh, I just went for my run and it's just part of my day now. That's where we want to go. That's what we want to strive toward. Now, let's think about this. You've probably had a habit that you've tried and then you failed. And we know from earlier in our talk, it has to do with no follow through and not being a SMART goal and no support and all of those things. But many of us just go, oh, I don't have enough willpower. Or I just don't have enough motivation. I just need to get motivated. I know we've all said that, right? I just need to get motivated. But here's what we know about motivation. Motivation works for the very short first part of habit implementation. It's great to get you started, but it's not sustainable. So what's interesting is motivation is part of a three-part equation to build a new habit. So motivation plus ability plus prompt equals a new habit. Now, by ability, I mean not whether you can or can't do it, it's how likely you will be to do it. So if somebody were to say to me, Heather, your new goal is to run 2 miles every morning at 5 a.m., my likeliness of doing that, because I hate mornings and I hate running, is very low. If they said, Heather, every day at noon, I want you to go and do 500 jump rope, I'd be like, done. I have a high likelihood of completing that because I love jump rope. That's a little in excess of what I typically do, and it's a time of day that works for me. Next, the prompt. What are you going to link this habit to? This is such an essential part of habit formation. You have to have something that triggers the habit. Let me give you an example. If you decide you are going to drink water at work and you are not a water drinker, and you say, I'm going to drink a gallon of water every day at work, and 3 days later you've had 1 glass and you're like, what happened? I thought I was going to drink a gallon every day. Well, you didn't link it to anything, and your ability to go from 0 water to a gallon is way too far off in the distance, and so your motivation would probably be low anyway, so no new habit. But if we say every 2 hours, I'm going to set this beautiful screensaver and it's going to make this amazing noise, that's going to be my trigger to remind me to drink 1 glass of water. That is a new habit waiting to be made. So BJ Fogg from Stanford University developed something called Tiny Habits methodology. And it's a way of just implementing all of this in a very simple and practical way. This is how we're going to think about our resolutions as we go into January. We need to identify an anchor moment. That's what you're going to link it to. So as a chiropractor, I typically would give a tennis ball exercise out of the gate with every patient, teach them how to do self-massage with a tennis ball. I would anchor it to them brushing their teeth, because I pretty much knew that everybody brushes their teeth usually twice a day. And that's how many times I wanted them to do the tennis ball exercise. So I'd anchor it to that. I would make it tiny. I would just say, tiny, tiny behavior. Get that tennis ball behind your shoulder and just work on it for 10 seconds. That's it, 10 seconds. And then we have to have an instant celebration. So anchor moment, tag it to something that you're already doing that's a routine, okay, that's consistent in your life. It might be, for some of my trades people, I'll say, when you're driving in your work truck to work, right before you get in, you do these stretches. Right when you get out, you do these stretches. So there is something they're linking to. They're getting in and out of their truck all day long. We do a tiny behavior. BJ Fogg uses the example that he used on himself. He really wanted a push-up practice. And so what he did is he said, okay, I go to the bathroom a lot, and because I drink a lot of water. So when I go to the bathroom and I come out, I'm going to get down on my hands and knees in the hallway. I'm going to do one push-up. Okay. He believed that tiny behaviors plant a seed that can then germinate and grow in that space in your day, and they're much more likely to stick. So tiny behavior and then instant celebration. This is huge. Here's what happens. When you perform your tiny behavior and then you go, woo, I'm awesome, your brain dumps happy chemicals and goes, oh, that was nice. Let's do that again, again, again. That's what happens when you celebrate. It has to be sincere, but when you celebrate after that tiny habit, then you are going to get a much greater likelihood of habit implementation long-term. So we say, after routine behavior, after I come out of the bathroom, new habit. I will do one push-up. That's the way you frame the statement. So as you're making your resolutions, frame your statement in this way. So let's use this. Here's this awesome picture of a horse, and we're going to practice right now. So here's the behavior. We want to start stretching at work. So all we're going to do is, every time we see a picture of this horse, we're going to stand up and we're going to stretch with a big sigh, and then we're going to go, I'm awesome, because we're going to celebrate the behavior. So here we go. We're going to practice. La, 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 la. Oh, my anchor moment. I'm awesome. Okay? That's how it works. BJ Fogg tiny habit method. So let's review. Loosey-goosey, should versus good, no support, incompatible story, no follow-through, no habit science. That is why resolutions fail. Here's how we make them successful. We use SMART goal setting: specific, measurable, actionable, realistic, and time-bound. We have a deep, meaningful wellness why. We establish a great wellness pit crew. We rewrite incompatible stories so they are congruent with the goals we want to achieve. And we practice tiny habit, anchor moment, tiny habit, and instant celebration. So my challenge to you is, do your time map, set yourself up for success at the beginning of the year, write out some of your resolutions ambitiously and aggressively, put them in the right format, get the right support around you. And I wish you all the luck in the world, and have a wonderful holiday, and we'll see you next time.